Okay, thank you. I call this meeting of the Magnolia Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present, that this meeting has been duly called, and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code, Chapter 551. So, if everybody will please stand, Mr. Adcox is going to lead us in our invocation and our pledges.
So it's been a long-standing tradition here in Magnolia ISD that we begin our meetings with a prayer. So if you'd like to join me, you're more than welcome to bow your head. Dear Father, I ask and I pray that you will be with our nation, with the world, as we go through this virus. I ask that you will remind us all that we are your children. I ask that you will be with all the healthcare workers, first responders, protect them and keep them safe. As always, I ask that you will be with our military men and women and their families and help them get home safely. I ask that as we begin this school year that you will be with our children and our teachers and our families of the Magnolia ISD and protect us all and keep us safe. In Christ's name I pray, amen.
Amen.
All right, we'll do the U.S. pledge first. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, sir. Okay. So, Ms. Hinkleman, I notice we have 3. Do we have any others?
No, sir, just those 3.
Okay, perfect. Okay, I'm going to read a statement here for those that are speaking. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Participants must have turned in a request form 15 minutes prior to the start of the meeting. Participation is limited to 3 minutes. Any complaint or charge brought against an employee by name opposition for which a resolution has not been sought in accordance with the policy should be pursued through the district's grievance policy. Please note that the Board of Trustees shall not deliberate, respond, or make decisions regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda that is posted. So, and just so you know, I mean, we're to be slow to speak and quick to listen, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to listen. So we're not doing it because we don't want to talk, we're doing it because it's a great opportunity for us to listen to what others have to say. So anyway, without any further ado, Miss Emily Newman is first.
Good evening. My name is Emily Newman, and I'm proud to be an educator at Magnolia High School. This is my 8th year teaching, but my first time speaking at a school board meeting. If you've ever been in a school where a student or staff member has died, you know that that loss ripples throughout the entire community. Classes stop, as they should, as students are overwhelmed with grief, and many of them face the mourning the loss of a life for the first time. How many times will this happen due to the decision made by the board and the district to teach face-to-face during a surge in the COVID-19 pandemic? How many preventable deaths will our students be traumatized by? How do you plan on assuaging the guilt of asymptomatic students who later test positive and then blame themselves for the death of a friend, a classmate, a teacher, or a family member? What is the acceptable number of preventable student and staff deaths? I'm a teacher. I keep tourniquets to stop bleeding and soup cans put in a pillowcase for defense in my desk drawer because I accept the risk of school shootings. I help students work and write through trauma, but I don't want to do that if the trauma is entirely avoidable. Lately, and it feels as though many are forgetting this, in addition to being a teacher, I am a human with dreams and goals of my own. I have a fiance named Andy. We plan to get married in January if things are safe. We are both high risk. Since face-to-face learning was announced by the district, my mind keeps drifting to this place. What if I bring home home the disease and kill him before I ever get to call him my husband. There are so many reasons I want to live and so many seasons of life that I've yet to experience. Teachers are regularly asked to plan their lessons, remediation, and extensions based on data. This time, I am asking you to make your plans based on data. There were 26 cases of coronavirus in Texas when we were sent home by the district to teach remotely so students and staff could be safe. As of July 17th, there are nearly 15,000 and you are asking us to go back. If I see 100 students a day, the likelihood of me interacting with somebody who has the coronavirus is 97%. The ethically correct and data-driven action here is clear. Allow us to start the school year remotely. Otherwise, can you live with the preventable deaths that you have voted for?
Thanks for your time. Miss Melinda Olendi, I think that's how you say it.
Oh, Lynn, but that's confusing.
Olendi, thank you.
To give us a break.
Oh, thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I'm not one that gets up in front of people, but I'm just kind of here on behalf of my daughter, who's going to be a senior this year. And all she wants is for school to be as normal as possible. We don't have, we're fortunate in this county that we don't have that many cases here. We have hardly had any deaths, and those have been elderly people. My daughter, I know, has known one person who's contacted. She's around a lot of people. And the only symptom she had was a loss of smell, and that was like for a couple of days. And then she went and spent a week with her and a bunch of girls in Galveston. And I know last week, Magnolia hosted cheer camp. And I told my daughter, I said, y'all can be the guinea pigs. And because they had a wonderful time. And there was no social distancing or wearing masks. They had sleepovers. And the smiles on those girls' faces to be together again after having missed so many months of school. And I just, asked that our board, I'm thankful for the board that we have. Y'all are all wonderful. And that you would just use common sense and let school take place again. And of course, you are given the opportunity for those to do online school. And I just wanted to read what my daughter, had to say. She wouldn't come here, but she just said, I am Cindy O'Lynn, and I will be a senior at Magnolia High School. I'm writing this so you can hear from a senior's perspective. I already know this year won't be a normal year, but please try to keep it as normal as you can. Senior year is the year I've been looking forward to since I was a little girl, and to know that that could be taken away sucks. I'm a person with very good mental health, but I cannot stay home for a whole entire school year. I want to be able to enjoy my senior year and all the fun things I'm supposed to do as a senior. For example, senior night on the football field, because I'm a cheerleader, Friday night lights, double early release, homecoming, senior breakfast, prom, and graduation. I just ask that you consider the seniors before making any decisions. Thanks, Cindy.
Thank you very much. Okay, and Stacy Yancek.
Hi friends, good to see you all again. I hope you don't mind, I used my jeans past tonight, didn't dress up for y'all like I usually do. I want to thank y'all, first of all, for everything y'all did and really went above and beyond this past spring. It was amazing, and Ramsey was able to finish the year even with kind of all her challenges that y'all know about. Well, we're calling it all A's because it was all A's up until the last 9 weeks, and then it was all passes, so we're calling it all A's at our house. So thank you, and thank you to her administrators and teachers, and of course Ms. McKay, who brought donuts to celebrate her all A's and celebrate with her, and the school sent her certificate, and it was just awesome. So thank y'all for that. When things started opening up a little bit, we got an email that said dance would be opened, and that they were going to try and do a semblance of a recital. They couldn't have it at school like usual because the schools were still under lockdown per the governor. And so they started to have, making a plan to have the recital one team at a time and take away all the contact stuff. And Robert and I started talking and praying about it, and we were like, we're kind of at a no. And we're like, okay, who's going to tell the kid? And I'm like, okay, so Ramsey, come here. And so we start talking about, well, you know, dance is going to be over. She goes, are you going to make me go? We were like, no, we're not going to make you go. We thought you'd want to go. She goes, are you kidding me? I don't know where those kids have been. And so from her perspective was the things she's seen on the news, the things she's heard us talk about, the family members that we've had that have had COVID and the things that they've been through in the process. And so you won't hear me say this often, but please do what the TEA is allowing you to do. Start school at home, distance learning. I know a lot of people are saying, oh, that'll be a nightmare. My kids want to go back to normal. I'd love to go back to February and things to be normal. I would love that. I would love to go all the places I usually go and see all the people I usually see and visit with them and not have to wear a mask and not do all those things. But it's not normal. And even going back won't be normal. I watched our time together here as we were gathering, and we're a room full of adults. We're doing the right thing. We're wearing our masks. We weren't staying 6 feet apart. I don't know how we're going to expect our kids to do that. And so my husband, who's very mild-mannered, as I was leaving, I invited him to come too, because he kept saying, and tell them this, and tell them this, and tell them. I'm like, you're welcome to come. He said, just tell them to do the right thing. And I know, and I've said to y'all before, I know that that means many different things to many different students. Kids that won't get the love and care that they get at school, they won't get that at home. And some kids that they'll get whatever they need wherever they are. But I think the right thing is infections increased in our county and 3 additional deaths today in Montgomery County. And yes, they've all been older people. They've all had comorbidities, but those are people's family members. Those are people's grandmothers that students may go home and infect. So thank y'all. I know it's a hard decision.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's certainly a challenging time to say the least. But it's a good dovetail into what you're going to talk about, I think.
It's good to hear from our teachers and our parents
absolutely.
about that. So, board members, as you know, I have prepped you in advance, and I know our staff and teachers and parents that here not realize that our district, as well as other districts across the state, are faced with some pretty big challenges in opening up school. This district, and I think our board, has agreed that it was a priority to eventually get our schools back up and operating here in Magnolia ISD. We felt like that was the place our kids needed to be. As we listened to a lot of the research that came down on both sides, it's just opening up was the right decision for us. And for August the 12th was our open day. And it was going to be, as all other school districts in the state of Texas, as directed by the Texas Education Agency, you had a choice. You could stay at home, and we were going to stand up the most robust system of online learning. It's going to be different than what it was. Listen, we're going to hear a report on that tonight. You also had the choice to come back into our buildings, and we were going to put protocols around that being in the choice building. But in a lot of cases, it was going to look like regular school in so many regards. But due to where we are with the number of cases in our county and in our region, I've handed out to our board of trustees, we have received today a letter from the Montgomery County Health Department and from the Montgomery County Hospital District. And as superintendents in the county, we have been in consultation with the health district, and we've discussed their challenges. They have a challenge of bed space currently in our hospitals. I heard from them, from the medical community, that they really didn't have a major concern with our students coming back into our buildings, but they have a concern that with our kids and our adults coming back into the buildings, that could lead to challenges for healthcare in Montgomery County with the situation as it is right now. So they have collectively asked us, and we again work with them, and this is a request as the school districts in Montgomery County, that we delay in building instruction till after Labor Day, and that it be online for all students that time. Now, they have given us the ability to bring in small groups of students into our building for different times. They can allow our staff to be in the building so that we can work on protocols, so that kids can have a chance to meet teachers in smaller groups. But we've got to keep those groups relatively small, like for maybe an elementary, a grade level at a time. And so we can make it through those 4 weeks at their request. So the other school districts in the county, I think tonight, in correspondence with their board meetings, are announcing their intentions to delay on-campus instruction, and I'm recommending we do the same thing. We don't have this as a board agenda because I received this letter that you have a copy of today. And so, and I think it has a lot of benefits for us. If there are UIL activities that will continue to be up, such as some of the practice or other things, and we're waiting on some guidance from UIL, what that meant. We thought some of that was going to come out today, but as we understand, maybe it'll be out tomorrow. But in accordance with UIL guidelines, we can continue some of those practices in our buildings. I know some of the other counties and health districts have recommended that they cease all those activities. That's current with Harris County, but we still have the option to allow those things to take place as we're in this transition period with not any kind of in-school instruction. So that's what I'm going to direct our staff toward. We're going to make sure our parents are aware of that. Tonight, we'll put out something to parents, just telling them that it has been changed, and we'll also have to fill in a lot of the blanks as to what that looks like. Tonight, we were going to talk about an opening transition plan, what that looked like, and what our plan. So that is kind of in transition. We can talk about the online segment, but knowing that was for a smaller group of students, and we're going to be talking about a much larger, a more robust sort of turnaround of that online learning, and Dr. Garza will be presenting that, and he'll have to fill in a little bit of the blanks around some of that, but that's currently where the state we are. And again, I do understand there are opinions on both sides of this. You know, personally, my heart's a little broke. I miss our kids. I miss the opportunities that we have to work with those children. And I know there are so many of the kids that need that time in school with our teachers, and for so many other things that we provide there. And we look forward to getting that back. But we also understand the context that we're working in our county, and we're going to respect the wishes of our healthcare professionals in Montgomery County and stand down in school until after Labor Day. So that's September the 7th or 8th, that weekend. Any questions, thoughts from the board regarding that?
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, I think everybody here, I believe, wants it as normal as we can get it. And we're in a tough spot to try to make things normal when things aren't in our control. But my heart really goes out to all the district, the administration, all the teachers, because if you can imagine, these guys are getting whiplashed every other day. We've got to have a new plan, it seems. So I just commend the patience of this group, because we're having to deal with a lot of stress and a lot of ways to try to glue this thing together when it's a moving target. So I just thank you.
Well, we
Just
appreciate
thank
it.
you.
And these professionals turned around on the dime right around spring break, and we started an online program at that time with almost zero prep, and we've been working on the online component of this since the beginning of the summer. It's just that now we got the volume has changed a little bit. So I am confident our teachers will be able to pull this together. If I didn't think we could make it before the October 12th day, I would ask for us to push back the start of the year, but I believe we can get it put together. We can get a similar, and we can still be working on pieces of that right after August the 12th. The state gives us a little leeway in that so we got all kids up and operating within that week or so. So I'm confident in the capabilities of this district that we won't miss too many beats on the online instruction, and we look forward to when we get back to a little more normal situation and be able to bring our kids back into the building and campus and get this year up and rolling.
So do we feel pretty confident that after Labor Day date will hold? Because I know it's tough bringing bus drivers, and nobody can predict the future, but it's not like you have a magical wand and overnight people just show up to drive our buses. And we need leeway to know ahead of time and not the day before the week.
And so
before.
I think to answer that question, Chuck, one of the things we've talked about, if we're going to have the flexibility to bring in smaller groups of kids, we're going to probably offer bus transportation to do that, for those kids to be there on time. So we're going to have our drivers up and drive. And obviously, so our drivers are a very vulnerable part of that.
Sure.
We're going to continue to pay them. We're going to make sure they understand they are a valuable part of our family. We have to have them. Even though we're not using them every particular day, we'll use them as needed along this way, so they're there for us when we come back. And same thing with our food service workers, and obviously our custodians who are working so hard right now to get us prepared, and we'll do on a regular basis once our teachers come back into the campus. But to that effect also, one of the things we encourage the county health department is to keep us apprised of the scenario that seems to be driving this. It's not that we don't want our kids back but it's the bed count and having the availability to treat patients. They can, whether it be COVID or anything else. And we want to make sure that we continue to get updated on what that count is. If we get to a situation prior to Labor Day where those numbers come down where they could give us an okay to quit, because they've said before, if their situation in terms of volume wasn't an issue, they have no problem with our kids being back in our schools. And so they're agreed to revisit the metrics with us as this time goes by.
Good.
So we got a lot of work to do.
I just wanted to thank you for, I know where your heart is, and I know where you want these kids back, and thank you for stepping out and making that clear weeks ago, and we know that your heart is in the right place, and you're just a really strong leader, and we appreciate that, because we all want our kids back in school as soon as possible.
Thank you.
No, it definitely is not lost on us that a lot of you educators are moms and dads also. And I have forever been in awe of educators' ability to reverse course on a dime. Even as a PTO mom, when we would have a presentation we paid for and it was late, and the whole campus would roll back their whole schedule for the day to fit it in where it belonged. So you guys did that in spades when all of this happened, while you were at home being parents to your kids who were also stuck at home with you. So we know that happened, and we're trying our best, and the admins are trying their best to give you as much concrete information as they can so that you can make plans for your own lives also. But we also know that everyone doesn't live in our boundaries of our district who works in our boundaries of our district. So the fact that this is a county-wide initiative to kind of hold off, hopefully will make it a little bit easier for everybody to shuffle around what needs to happen at home while you're also shuffling around what's happening at work. So we are praying for y'all every day, and you have 100% of our support. Everybody's just trying to do what we know to do with what we know at the moment, which changes the next moment. So we're all in this together. Hang in there. It's going to work out. And we're going to get all those kids back with their friends.
You're all masked back up again. Okay, thank you, Dr. Todd. We appreciate that. I've got a consent agenda item here.
I've got a presentation for.
Before the consent agenda item? Okay, well, Dr. Bullock, go for it, sir.
You sit back down, though. You're.
No, that's good, we're good.
So we wanted to bring to you the plans we have for going back to school, which, as we've all just heard, is going to be quite different on August 12th. We've spent considerable time, and you guys have talked about this some already tonight, but this has been a monumental challenge to try to plan for every contingency. Even from our end, we have awaited information from the state, from the commissioner, from TEA, at several different points, expecting to receive guidance that would at least steer us in one direction or another and trying to plan for what the state was going to require of us as a school district this coming fall. And we've spent time just planning for any scenario, when we have a lack of information, and we've received some guidance and had a direction, and then, here, I guess the one constant is that this is evolving quickly, and every day and every week we're having more light shed on the reality we're going to be dealing with. So to that end, as Dr. Stevens shared with you guys, we've had to change our plans again. We've bought a lot of cleaning supplies and have made plans to have as sanitized the campus as we can, and masks and protocols and all those things will go on hold for a while, so I don't want to really get into that this evening. But what we do want to talk to you about is some, from a budget standpoint, some of the things we've done spending-wise to be ready for this fall, especially in light of the coronavirus. And then I'm going to have Dr. Garza come up after that and talk to you specifically about the preparations from an academic end for us to start off with an online environment. So, Dr. Morris, I think you're up.
Good evening again. So like Dr. Bullock mentioned, I just wanted to very briefly touch on some of the expenses associated with the COVID shutdown in the spring, and also in preparation of the upcoming school year, now with the knowledge that the face-to-face will be delayed slightly. Going back to the spring, obviously, and then the board is aware of this, we established a resolution that basically adhered to the policies that we had in place for pay purposes, where for our hourly people, they receive premium pay for the actual hours worked, which basically is 1.5 times their normal rate of pay for up to 40 hours a week. Costs associated with that exceeded $180,000 that we expended. Obviously, the largest expense, if you will, is the preparation for distance learning and distance instruction, whereas we have to make sure that our students have the opportunity to learn online, to access online and online capabilities and so forth. So Dr. Garza and his crew did a fantastic job of pooling dollars together to purchase Chromebooks for district-wide needs. We spent just shy of $1.1 million on Chromebooks to make sure that we're at least prepared, and we know that that will be an ongoing need as well as we move forward. Cleaning supplies and paper products, Dr. Bullock mentioned this momentarily, but obviously the initial needs for disinfecting our buildings in late spring, and also in preparation of the face-to-face to come this fall, we have purchased enough items to prepare for the first 8 weeks at this point of school, and again, understanding that the face-to-face will be slightly delayed now, hopefully to allow us to get closer to a more normal setting where perhaps some of these requirements will be cut off, if you will, at some point. But cost associated with that was just under $67,000. We've also purchased a bevy, if you will, of paper towels of just over $40,000. And so anyhow, these are some of the primary expenses. I know we talked in our budget workshop earlier about our reimbursement for educators, and I hesitated to put that on here. Obviously, that is a cost, and it will affect our budget, but we did have savings operationally speaking as well, so I'm kind of keeping that separate for this presentation. But we're certainly meeting with our FEMA officials and receiving guidance from TEA daily on the Coronavirus Relief Fund and ESSER monies available to make sure that we're, receiving as much reimbursement as we can for all of these expenses. If there's good news, we feel really, really good, if you will, about qualifying expenses. Unfortunately, for the lesser expensive items, such as our hand sanitizer, paper towels, and the employee premium pay, we believe that we'll receive about 90% reimbursement for FEMA on that. We are trying our darndest, if you will, for the internet access devices for technology to receive some reimbursement for that as well. They're always a little hesitant when it comes to technology, but we're building our case, and we'll do everything we can to make sure that we receive some money back from the state or federal government for that. Okay? Any questions on that? Now we'll get to the important part with Dr. Garza.
All right, good evening. I have the pleasure of presenting our online program to you all this evening, and as Dr. Stevens just said, it just changed. So what I'm going to present to you tonight is kind of what our plan was for the smaller program that parents are currently registered for as we speak. So a couple terms you need to know about when it comes to remote learning is synchronous and asynchronous learning. And TA is very hot and heavy about these particular terms. Synchronous is just live instruction. That means you and I, same time, same place, same meeting. Asynchronous just means more independent work. All right, so they give us two options when it comes to developing an online model for the district. They gave us a remote synchronous instruction model and a remote asynchronous instructional model. And so the synchronous instruction model basically is where students engage with live instruction on a daily basis at a certain time, certain place. And for third to fifth graders, that's about 3 hours a day. Secondary students is about 4 hours per day. One of the key, faults with that model, so to speak, is that for pre-K to second grade, they will not fund it for that grade level. It has to be asynchronous for those students. So with that in mind, we have chosen the asynchronous model, which is much more flexible, much more user-friendly for our parents and for our students. And also, it puts all of our students on the exact same model, K through 12. So parents have a similar experience as far as what their kids will be doing day in, day out. And what's really good about this model is that you can have synchronous pieces, which is the live instruction, as part of an asynchronous plan. And I'll get more into that later on. Some key components of our MISD online school. So the spring, we're kind of thrown into it, and it was, we turned around the whole system in about 4 days. This system, we've had some time to think about it and put some things in place that will be more aligned with a quality instructional product. So one of that is that the students enrolled in the online school are going to follow the instructional day time period at their home campus. So, for example, students at MHS, for example, if they're an online student, they will start school at 7:15 in the morning. They'll start virtually. And they will follow that schedule throughout the day. And that will include a mixture of live classes, independent work, and so forth and so on, right? So they might have a couple classes a day that are live and 3 or 4 that are asynchronous, and that might flip-flop throughout the week. And I'll show you a sample schedule later on.
Part of that is you got to pick a path. I feel like I have something in my mouth. You have to pick a path as to which one of those you're going on, but it's not permanent. And the only thing we ask is that we stay within a grading period. So within a 9 weeks grading period, if you're going to be online, you remain online, but you can come back. And so it was important that we match those up. So for our kiddos who were taking online and they decide they want to come back into a classroom after that 9 weeks, that instruction sort of matches up as part. And so that's a part of it we're building in. That's going to be not quite the issue at this first 4 weeks or so, but eventually it will be part of an issue.
Yes, sir. And then also, like you just said, we're going to follow, all our teachers will follow the same scope and sequence. So when they do go back and forth, the transition for kids will be very seamless as much as possible. And that might entail switching teachers, because some are going to be online only, some will be in face only, but the content will be right where it needs to be for them. And then, as we did in the spring, if needed, we will pass out devices for kids. We purchased new ones. We have enough for all the students. We've got 5,000 Chromebooks. We have 1,750 tablets coming for our K and first graders. So we're in pretty good shape when it comes to technology. So the big question The big thing I want parents to understand is that this is going to be far different than the spring model. So as I mentioned, we were kind of thrown into earlier. You know, we put all this stuff together in 1 week, and what we kind of produced was a different grading system and then with weekly assignments. This, in per TA guidelines, this will be a daily school experience for the students. And they will be required to attend live sessions and do independent work on a daily basis. And that we actually will be taking attendance virtually. And our grading requirements will be the same for both models. So students in the online model will have the same grading requirements as those students in the in-school model. So that means same number of testing quizzes and so forth and all that kind of stuff.
So Brandon,
Yes, sir.
what happens with, I mean, we've got these Chromebooks, we've got all the technology. What happens when with the kids that don't have access to Wi-Fi and so on?
So our technology department is working on that, but one possible solution to that is to open up our libraries or our campuses for those students to come up and work during the day if they do not have access. But we're also working on possibly hotspots and so forth like that. But that's a work in progress for sure. So one of probably the biggest thing that will be different for parents is going to be the attendance requirement for the online school. So TEA put out some pretty stringent requirements on online attendance, and that's how we get our funding. Is that we have to take attendance on a daily basis, and that students in the online school are subject to the same attendance requirements as those in the traditional model. So actually, students can be truant virtually, so to speak. That actually could happen, or they can be perfect attendance virtually as well. So it'll be the exact same model. But they have given us a really good flexibility in how we take attendance. And this is, I think the comment was made earlier about a student can never be absent, right? So that's possible in this model. So in the asynchronous model, there's kind of 3 methods we can kind of take attendance. So we can look in Canvas, that's our LMS system that kind of determines, did a kid log in, did they do their assignments for that day? And if they did, they are present. Or did they attend a live session? So like I mentioned earlier, we will have live sessions throughout the day for some classes and some classes not. And so were they there? But if they weren't, then they can go at night and view that on the recording, they logged in and so forth, therefore present. Or if they turn in an assignment, take a test or quiz online, something like that, they also be present. So the attendance reporting in this is going to be a Herculean effort on our teachers and our attendance clerks. Just the record keeping in this is going to be quite the task. But it's something that we're going to have to do to make sure all of our kids are getting online every day, and it's going to be quite the task.
TA is working on a module that will fit. An LMS is a learning management system. So it's the software that you submit the grades to, or you get the assignments from, and you work with teachers, and ours is Canvas, and there's some other ones. But TA is working on those 2 major ones, and they're going to plug in, so when a kid logs on to the Canvas and LMS, it will record that child as being present for that time, and basically our attendance is, when they get that set up, it'll be taken care of and sent to the state. But we're going to have to make sure we get them on. That means us monitoring them being on and logged on enough times for us.
So
Yes, sir.
I was just going to ask, so if a kiddo's not feeling well, rather than the pressure of, I got to go to school,
Correct.
would they be able to?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Even the kids, once we go back to
No,
school.
that way the pressure's
Yeah,
not
once we
there.
go back to school, and if you're coming to school and you want to stay home for a day for whatever reason, you can go through Canvas, do the assignment on Canvas that the teacher's doing in class at that time, and be kind of present. That's correct.
Sure,
So-
some of us came up with the deal of, well, we wouldn't ever have kids absent, and
It's
that's
possible.
where Mr. Morris kind of, that
Mr. Morris gave the head nod.
TEA built into the system where you can't have more than,
Right.
you can't have a perfect attendance, I mean, so anyway.
So we were trying to create, as best we could, trying to paint a really good picture of what the experience for students is going to look like. And part of that was relaying to students and families about what we need to see them as students in this environment. So part of our expectations for students is that they're going to have to do daily activities, whether that's synchronous or asynchronous activities type things. They're going to have to show proof that they were involved in the learning in some capacity, whether that's getting in Canvas, submitting assignments, and things like that. When needed, they're going to be required to participate in intervention services or enrichment opportunities. And then they're going to be asked to participate in like online chats with friends, students, peers, so forth, about assignments and things like that. So that has to happen on a daily basis not only for attendance, but just for learning. I mean, you know, what we did in the spring was more about kind of keep us treading water. This is really going to help us stay moving forward. And we also wanted to tell parents kind of here's what we need to see from parents and guardians as well, because you know, I think we all believe that the in-person experience is superior to online learning. But parents that choose this, you know, we'll make sure the product's good, but they have to understand that they're going to have to partner with us at a very high level in order for their kids to be successful. Because they got to make sure that the kids are logging on at a certain time, especially those 4 and 5-year-olds. I mean, think about that for a minute. I have a 5-year-old, and she's not doing that by herself, trust me. But part of it is just we want them to make sure that they're partnering with their student's teacher and admins on active support for their student, you know, working with their kids, provide support that they're online. We're going to offer some training classes for parents when it comes to Canvas. We're also going to offer some training for parents about how to help with reading at the elementary level, because we know that's a critical part of this. And then that last one is organize and provide transportation to campus. So there will be times when we need, you know, a first grader to come up for a reading that like they're falling behind for you know, with whatever reason, we need to come to campus and work one-on-one with that teacher with protocols in place. So the parent piece is going to be paramount in the online learning process for sure. As far as commitment, Dr. Stevens kind of mentioned this early. There's a daily commitment and there's an overall commitment. So we're telling our kids and parents that daily they need to be available to do schoolwork during the school day, as they would if they were in person. And so, and I'll show you a sample schedule here in just a minute. But so their school day will consist of, like I said, live sessions, independent work. You'll kind of go back and forth throughout the school day. And again, we're asking parents, especially the younger ones, to be actively involved in that process. But overall, we're asking them to commit for one grading period at a time. That's a TEA requirement, is that we offer that. And so that way, at the end of 9 weeks, the parent says, you know what, this is not working out for me and my family. Let's go back to the traditional. Or if traditional is not working out for me, I want to go online. Kids can do a lot of this going back and forth. But for our purposes and to keep us straight with staffing, you know, ratios and so forth, we're holding that at the end of grading period.
And, you know, it's not such an issue currently right now because we're going to all be basically online. But before I know, a lot of people were having a lot of difficulty trying to figure out which path is best for us. What should we take? Should it be in the building? And I know there's a lot of reasons I don't want to be there, but I have concerns about this. And if I don't put my child in the building, I've got there's, you know, I'm worried that I'm not doing the right thing, or vice versa. And I think part of the message to some of this was that it's not a permanent decision. And I mean, you can start off there, and if you feel like there's a necessity to make a change, then we're going to allow you to be flexible after that grading period, and you can either come in the building or come back out of the building. And I think it's turned coming out of the building, going along, I think we've almost said that could happen almost at any time. It didn't have to be on the grading system as a part of that, but coming back to the building would have to be on those grading guideline parts of it. So I just, you know, when we get to that point, and the assumption will be if we get past Labor Day or even before, we're going to be forced making some of those same decisions. Parents just need to do what their heart tells them is the right thing to do, and realize we're going to back them up in those decisions and make that be the right choice for their child. You know, we're going to make it a good year for them, however we tend to go with that. And if they need to change their mind, they're going to have the flexibility to do that. So.
Yes, sir. And then I provide just kind of some sample schedules, and this is just a sample, but this is kind of what a school day would look like for an elementary student. So you can see, let's just take Monday, for example. They would start off their day with like a morning meeting with all their classmates on some kind of Zoom call. And then this particular student would have a reading lesson live during that time period. Now, it may not last 45 minutes, it might be 20 minutes, but that time period is built for them to have a reading lesson that's live in that time period. And then the student would be able to have some AS time, that's asynchronous time, to do independent work on reading or math or whatever it may be during that time period. They have PE, and then there's a live math lesson. We have lunch built in for them. And then we have more of independent work time in the afternoon with a read aloud. So you can kind of see throughout the week how their schedule kind of flip-flops, where there's live sessions and and it's asynchronous sessions, so to speak. So we're trying to be, so on that model, for example, so that student would be in a live session, it looks like, for 2 full sessions and a read aloud and then 1 morning meeting. So for a 10-year-old or a 9-year-old, that's pretty easy to navigate right there. Where the parent piece comes in is make sure that they are online during those times. And that's going to be the tricky part for parents, especially ones that do have jobs. So we fully recognize that. So that's where, to your point, Mr. Adcox, if a student it just can't get there during that time, they can go do that at night, do stuff asynchronously, and be counted present. But you know, I wouldn't say that's the ideal learning, but if that's what has to happen, then so be it. And then this next one is a secondary schedule, and this is much easier. It just follows your normal bell schedule for any given campus. So that's kind of a high school schedule right there. You can see that what you have there is there's basically 3 to 4 synchronous sessions per week. I mean per day, and it kind of flip-flops back and forth. So that way, what we don't want is we don't want high school kids sitting on a Zoom session for 7 hours straight. That's not effective at all. So what we're gonna have to do is make sure our campuses build internal schedules so that maybe math and science is on one day, and reading social studies on the next, and they kind of flip-flop. And then we can do that quite easily. But to make sure that our parents are not getting overwhelmed with kids, they're gonna have multiple kids in some cases. I mean, I have 3 children online all at the same time, and that's gonna be hard. So the more we can have the schedule laid out for parents, make sure we don't change it a whole lot on them, it'll be more beneficial to them. Questions? Yes, ma'am.
Dr. Garza, especially on the secondary level, will exams be proctored through this system?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We're still working on that. That's going to be a work in progress in and of itself. The proctoring live exams is not an easy task, for sure.
And will the exams be the same between remote and class, or similar? In other words,
Yes, sir.
where I'm going with this is to try to make sure the learning is happening when it's unsupervised, so to speak.
Yes, sir. So one of the things the online teachers, that were going to be selected for online learning, they're part of what we call PLCs at their campus. So I'll use high school as an example. So picture an English 1, so there's 4 teachers. Maybe Ms. McDonald's the online teacher. So y'all are all still meeting together, planning lessons and so forth. She's just the online teacher. Her lesson might look a little bit different because it's online, y'all are in person, but the content's going to be the same, therefore the assessments can be similar in nature. Any questions? That's a lot of information. And trust me, it's a lot to put together too. And without this change, making it district-wide is going to be a little more challenged than what this is, but it's nothing we can't handle. And with 3 weeks, I'm very confident we'll have a very good product for y'all to be proud of.
You've had a committee working on this for now.
Several months, yes, sir.
Yeah. So there's a lot of legwork and already put in place for this, but you're just expanding it now and bringing everybody into it. So
There's a lot of moving parts, I'll say that, in this, especially when you're running 2 systems that are.
So the biggest challenge is obviously to get all the face-to-face folks up to speed with this so they can do it in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it is.
Yes, sir.
So-
And the other challenge was on this because we weren't sure who the online people were going to be until we knew the total number
How
that were
many?
going to be pulled out. So, so there was going to be either 2 per grade level or 1 per grade level if we look at those numbers. So there was still a lot of work ahead of us. It's just that the map was sort of mapped out as to what that was going to look like. There have been teachers and administrators already working on some of this, but it's just now the volume of it has changed. So but I think they're capable. We can get it stood up and running. I know we're not even sure what a lot of the questions are, but they're coming to us and we're getting them answered, and we'll get through this thing.
So I know this question's come up as far as with it being high stakes in high school on top 10%.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure you've had that question, so I'll give you an opportunity to answer that question because I know it's going to come up.
So this plan before the change the last few hours was our board policy speaks to that classes done distance learning do not count for weighted GPA. So in this plan, the classes that kids would take online would not count toward their weighted ranking GPA, right? So there's 3 different grading systems in far as GPA. So it's that ranking GPA would not count for that. With this change, we're gonna have to go back and kind of go back and see how that's gonna work. Knowing that we, you know, with us bringing kids back to the building, possibly after Labor Day, people have kind of picked the lane, or they're picking lanes as we speak. That would probably still be in place. So that's a big question that has come up several times.
Sure.
Well, so, and I know you were gonna take a poll or something and have folks sign up so you'd know if it's 80-20 online, face-to-face. Has that just been delayed now because of this, or are you just gonna wait until?
Well, we're right in the middle of it. It's closed up. Our current thought is we're probably just gonna tell everybody that we're gonna sort of shelve that and say, you know, you continue to ponder this, but right now we're all online. And we'll probably have to finish that up, and you'll have to make a choice after Labor Day or when we go back, because more than likely we'll be in this same two-house scenario, and you're going to have to pick a lane at that point. So we'll probably have to open it up and get people's feedback, and
Late August or something
and
like
then
that.
based on what they see in this on, they may make different choices. But yeah, they're going to have to go ahead and finish up and make a choice so we can, you know, figure that out for when we start back.
Yeah, we launched that registration request last Wednesday, and as of this afternoon, we had a few hundred that had signed up for online already. And in terms of staffing, the secondary this is much easier to work with because the numbers are larger. Elementary is going to be a little more of a problem when you have 6 third graders at Williams and 6 at Lyon and 6, you know, when it becomes more spread out. Staffing wise, that's going to be a little bit of entanglement.
Was it premature to get a sense of which direction they were gonna go before this delay?
Yeah, I don't know that we really had a good feel for how that was shaking out in terms of, you know, where they were stacking up into it. Now earlier we'd done a survey, and 80% of our parents clearly told us they were in favor of coming back into our buildings, and they wanted when school started. And that had been several weeks back, and there may have been some change in that, but that's basically what we had sort of were looking for.
Sure.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now it's consent agenda.
Yeah, thank you, sir. And that was my bad, Jason. I missed that on. Anyway, thought it was later. I don't know. Okay. So now we'll get to our consent agenda. This portion of the agenda consists of items to be routine and enacted by one motion unless separate discussion is requested. So does anybody have any questions or comments about the consent agenda? We all good? Okay, so need a motion that we approve consent agenda items 5A through D. Motion by Kelly, seconded by Chuck. All in favor? That motion passes. Okay. Unless I'm having another brain lapse, I think Mr. Stewart, you're next.
I am. Annually, we bring to you our code of conduct for approval. Generally, we talk about changes. This being a non-legislative year, and with all the other things that have gone on last spring, there are absolutely no changes except for one simple one. So there's no changes in the area of consequences or due process, how we handle kids. The only change is in the very early part of the document that talks about what authority we have, and it is now just includes our asynchronous and synchronous teaching environments and models that we also have to address in case there's online harassment or cyberbullying of any type. We have to address those as well. So we're coming to you as very unusual, asking you to approve a document that has virtually no changes in it. So, are there any questions on it?
Well, I guess we need a motion to approve something that hasn't moved.
Hasn't moved.
Motion by Christie, seconded by Sonia. All in favor? Let's pass that one. Pretty easy. Thank you, sir. And I think you're next.
The second item that you're looking at is the optional flexible school day program that we employed at Alpha Academy last year. We were able to start it on the second 9 weeks because of delays with TEA's approval system. But we got it started, we ran it for 2 9 weeks, we were just ironing out all the kinks, and we went out with COVID. So we haven't been able to see a full year of how that impacts us in terms of funding, but in the 2 9 weeks that we did see, we saw a great improvement of being able to reduce the amount of kids that we were denying credit to. So, and then in terms of how it impacted the funding, we were moving into that, and then that kind of went out the window. So in light of the announcement tonight, we're going to be delaying its start on its implementation, but we still have to come in front of the board and ask you to approve that. And what the optional flexible school day program is where we get to work with, instead of you must attend these amount of minutes out of the 75,000 that we have in the year, we have a floor. We have to get a kid there for X amount of minutes, and we can do that in our at-risk environments. And it helps kids graduate, it helps kids, a lot of our kids, as you guys know, having been through some of our alpha, are already managing their own lives and working full-time, and it helps us work school around some of those pieces, and it's really beneficial to the students. So we're asking you to approve Alpha Academy's involvement in the optional flexible school day program again this year. Last year, as you recall, we had to have a hearing. Once we have our initial hearing, we do not have to have one every year, but we do have to have it on the board agenda, and we request that you approve it so that we can move forward with TEA and the plan.
Any questions?
It's good for the kids.
We good? Okay. We need a motion to approve the optional flexible school day program application for Alpha Academy. Motion by Chuck, seconded by Sonia. All in favor? That motion passes, sir. Thank you very much.
I thought maybe if I pop that investment report up there quick enough, you just carry on, right?
So Dr. Morris is going to join us, and this item is for a review. We don't need any action on this one, so he's on deck.
All right, I'll move through fairly quickly. We have the quarter 2 and quarter 3 investment report for 19-20 school year, fiscal ending 2020. Just as a brief reminder to the board, about 2 years ago, we secured a very favorable contract with our depository bank in Wood Forest for overnight deposits. They, welcomed the opportunity to increase our balance limits, and we obviously welcome the opportunity to earn more on interest. And so, very simply put, we performed some research on average return for our investment pool purposes, and created a rate which was the 91-day T-bill rate plus 25 basis points is what we're receiving at Wood Forest Bank, which is pretty darn good, so to speak, in particular to have it as liquid as possible, if you will, in our local bank account. So, and we also at that time established a floor of 0.75% should the market turn, and of course it has turned since that time. But anyhow, during quarter number 2, you can see here that we brought in, you can hardly see that far. Let's see, right at 359,000, I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong. Quarter 2 interest earned $359,000 for an average rate of around 1.8%. You can see at the bottom left-hand part of the screen the average T-bill rates during that time. And again, it's not exact, but you'll notice the 13-week plus 25 basis points is very, very close to what we're receiving in Wood Forest. So tried to maximize our balance over there as it was performing well, very similar to Texas class. Obviously compared to quarter 2 a year ago, rates had gone down even at that time fairly substantially, where our average return was 2.56%. But of course, we continue to do everything we can to maximize our return by maintaining our high balances in those greater producing interest locations as long as possible. Quarter number 3, again, same setup at Wood Forest Bank, where we're guaranteed a fixed floating rate of 91-day T-bill plus 25 basis points with a floor of 0.75, and wouldn't you know it, at that time, it's where it kind of started coming into play, given the T-bill rate downturn and things of that nature during the COVID shutdown and so forth. So, again, you'll see on the far right, right at $250,000 for the quarter. compared to last year average rate return of 2.35%, and our average was around 0.8 total when you look at the three different funding sources. So, not great news as it relates to investment earnings during that time frame, but we've done everything we can to make sure we maximize the return that's available. Obviously, much of that in terms of the economic conditions is well out of our hands. So that's the investment report for quarter 2 and quarter 3. I'll be glad to answer any questions, but like Mr. Blizzard said, it is for presentation purposes only.
I think we're good.
We're doing okay. We're doing everything we can. How's that?
Carry on, sir.
Okay, the next
The
agenda
best
item.
investment we seem to be having is paying down our debt.
Absolutely. Yes. Can we go back to that slide?
at a higher percentage.
Right here. Miss Missy, here, I'm gonna pull this.
It's at a much higher percentage than what we're earning, so
Let's see if
spend
I
it
can
on
set that
debt.
favorable. So the next item that we have a resolution. Obviously, this is something we talked about last month, and we also talked about it during our budget workshop earlier. Whereas we know that our educators have expenses associated with preparing their homes, if you will, for online instruction, dating back to the spring COVID shutdown. And as we continue in their preparation for the fall, we had talked about last month the possibility of a $500 one-time educator bonus or reimbursement, if you will. And then since that time have identified even more savings from an operational side of things for utilities and things of that nature, due in large part to the shutdown. So we are recommending tonight an immediate payment of $1,000 to all of our teachers to help with the out-of-pocket expenses associated with distance instruction.
Definitely.
Sounds good.
Anybody have any questions? I mean, I think I could speak for everybody. You're surrounded by a board that wants to pump as much money to these folks as we can. So we're thrilled about this and wish it could be more.
I love it when we think $500 is a good plan and you come up with $1,000 we can give them. That makes me a happy person.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, this is to all teachers who are with us for this upcoming year. And so there may be some brand-new teachers that didn't incur any expenses last year, but the overarching deal is, isn't it great to be in Magnolia ISD where we're going to take care of you for some of those expenses we had? So I'm excited about it, and I'm excited we can put some dollars back in the pockets of our teachers, you know, when we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's awesome.
Appreciate that effort, Mr. Morris.
Yes, sir. Glad to do it. Glad to take care of our folks.
I'm glad that it grew.
Absolutely.
Okay, so
So we'll be asking you to adjust the budget in just a moment. But there are savings. in
yeah, there's
other
a backside to this. I'm sure we're going to hear about here in a minute.
I need you to work some magic
And
on
things
some
were
of my
going
stuff,
so
too.
well.
Okay, we need a motion to approve a one-time payment of $1,000 to each educator as presented by Dr. Morris. Kelly, motion. Motion by Kelly, seconded by Sonia. Everybody, all in favor?
Y'all can raise your hands.
Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all.
That's exciting.
Okay. Next item on the agenda, we saw an RFQ for financial advisement services. This ultimately aligns with our district-wide initiative. As the board is well aware of, we have been very aggressive with our procurement for all of our services and products, in particular over the last year or so. Make sure we're continuing to receive the best value available. And so we put this out on the street and received some very high-quality submissions, if you will. There's just something, I apologize if it's a little blurry on the screen there. But we received 6 submissions, created a selection committee of 4 different individuals in the central office. Created weighted criteria, of course, to be able to score submissions and so forth. We received 6 submissions. Also created kind of a dummy bond scenario so we could make sure that we're at least looking at cost and fee schedules a little bit. Of course, it's a professional service, but it's something that we have to have some sort of comparison. And so of the 6 submissions, as we looked through there, we immediately started focusing on 3 for FA firm purposes, based on the cost and strength of firm and ability to meet the needs of the district as we see it. Then at that point, we really started focusing on the strength of individual financial advisors, okay? And ultimately, it was at that point where we started to see a disparity surface, if you will. In particular, with Live Oak Public Finance and our financial advisor, Mr. Lucas Jonda, who's in attendance tonight, and I'll introduce him in just a moment. And I'll give you a little bit of Lucas's background. It's somewhat unique. He has a history of working as a district external auditor. He actually worked for the farm firm at one point in time who still performs our district audit. He also served as a lead finance official, a CFO, in several large public school districts. One of them extremely large and fast growing. He's very adept at being involved with aggressive bond defeasance plans and things of that nature, given his history and working in those fast growth school districts. And of course, he served as an FA for the past many years. And so at the end of the day, the committee really took all of that into consideration, and we strongly believe that he and his firm could meet the needs of the district of a traditional financial advisement service, if you will, of the normalcy of helping us through bond elections and refundings and things of that nature. But what he brings to the table as an individual far exceeds the other submissions. And so because of that, our committee is recommending tonight that we award the RFQ for financial advisement services to Live Oak Public Finance and Mr. Lucas Jonda. And again, Lucas is in attendance tonight. This is Mr. Jonda right here. He'd probably entertain any questions if you have any, and assuming we move on down the road, I'd give him the opportunity to address the board just quickly as well. But I'm sorry, going back, any questions about the submissions and the scoring and things of that nature?
How long has it been since we went out for review?
Well, we were ultimately forced to go out a little over 2 years ago, Dr. Stevens, because our financial advisor who we were using at that time had left the firm that we were using at that time, and we followed him to a firm that he had created in his own name. And I'll just be very candid. I mean, he has performed well for us. He and his firm have done a good job, and yet I firmly believe that Mr. Jonda and his firm could provide us with even greater service, without question and without hesitation.
Any questions? Something I would like to share with you guys. I watched this from 250 miles away. He's done a job in my hometown that was fantastic. The school district I came from had some problems, some challenges, and that's probably an understatement. And he went up there with Mike Holland and fixed those problems. And they couldn't have any bigger fans than the folks in my hometown that were so glad that they came and did such a good job with what they did, and they hated to see him leave. So anyway, I again, watching from 250 miles away, that's you can be comfortable that this is the guy.
Yeah, Mr. Blizzard, I gave Lucas a hard time earlier in that when he was serving in a large district as a CFO, that he was one of the top 2 in the state of Texas, for sure, in terms of CFOs.
Eric?
Second to only one of them, right?
Lucas, do you have anything you'd like to add? Or? Okay.
We appreciate the time this evening. It's a pleasure to be here this evening, and honor for the opportunity to be able to serve the board administrative team moving forward. Great district, and we appreciate the opportunity to work.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, with that, we need a motion to approve Live Oak Public Finance to provide financial advisement services for Magnolia ISD beginning July 14, 2020. Motion by Christie, seconded by Chuck. All in favor? That motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you all. Okay, next item on the agenda. Part of our truth and taxation requirements that we do every year, receive excess collection report and for the previous year, and the certification of the debt service collection rate for the approaching year from Tammy McCrae's office. First, for excess collection purposes, there really are no opportunity for excess collections if you've adopted a 100% collection rate in the prior year. So in terms of excess collections for 2019, the answer is 0, but we still need to go through that process. And along those lines for 2021, just as we've done every year, we are adopting a certification collection rate for 2021 of 100%. And obviously, the intention there is to hold taxing entities accountable, for setting tax rates and things of that nature. So, it is our recommendation to accept the report from Tammy McCray, or the percentages from Tammy McCray.
This is kind of like saying the tax rate went up when it didn't go up.
It's very similar, yes, sir.
You would want to collect 100%, right?
The no new tax.
That's just
these
me.
days is what we call it, no new tax, yeah.
Okay, we have any questions? We good? All right. So we need a motion to accept the excess collections for 2019 debt service and certification for debt service collection rate for 2021, 2020, 2021 as submitted. Motion by Chuck, seconded by Kelly. All in favor? That motion passes.
Okay, I did not put this in the presentation, but you should have the information in front of you. I believe this is my last item. For preliminary end-of-year budget amendments, and here we go, Mr. Adcock is going back to the increase, but it does balance on the revenue and expenditure side, so that's what's most important. First off, we have the general fund, and hopefully you've had a chance to look through this, so I won't go through every individual item. Obviously, we're very conservative with our revenue estimates, so we have some wiggle room on the revenue side of things. We need to adjust our expenditure budget to absorb the cost of the bonus that we're fixing to have in terms of getting it in the right location for accounting purposes for our teachers. Along those lines, we're decreasing our Function 51 operating budget because we know that we're going to have savings in that area. So ultimately, that is primarily what we're doing here. We're increasing the appropriation side for revenue purposes by $1 million, and we're doing the same on the expenditure side, and then shifting some money around on expenses to get in the areas where we need. Okay. End product is again a balanced budget, and we do believe that we will have a very slight surplus, very slight given the $1,000 bonus that we've committed to. The only other remaining item, the debt service fund. I know the board is aware of this, but with our aggressive bond defeasance plan, as we saw that we would have more revenue available, given our conservative projections for tax collection purposes, we wanted to go ahead and utilize that money to pay down as much as we could. And ultimately what we're doing here is simply addressing that by increasing the revenue and the expense accordingly. Okay, any questions on that? So again, the end product is yet again a balanced budget for debt service purposes as well. Would you like to answer any questions?
We like a balanced budget.
Yes, ma'am. we do.
Questions? Comments? Okay, so we need a motion to approve the 2019-2020 preliminary end-of-year budget amendments for the general and debt service funds for the fiscal year ending August 31st, 2020. Motion by Christie, seconded by Kelly. All in favor? That motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you all so much.
You're back, sir.
I am. I am. This is a policy revision to board policy DNA local. Policy DNA local addresses the teacher evaluation system that we use to evaluate teachers in the school district. And the policy change in front of you will move us away from a locally developed appraisal system that we've been using the last few years to the T-test system, which that stands for the Texas Teacher Evaluation and Support System, which is the recommended evaluation rubric from the Commissioner of Education and is used by the majority of school districts in the state. Reason for making this change at this point, this rubric aligns a lot more with some of our instructional goals, first off. And second off, this sets us up to be able to apply and participate in the teacher incentive allotment here over the next couple of years. And that allotment has the potential for us to set our teachers up to receive additional pay from the state but in order to qualify for that, they would have to be evaluated on a rubric that the state has pre-approved. So for us to make this move now is really the first step in us being ready to participate in that teacher incentive allotment down the road. We have talked through this with principals and been working on this since into last school year. And at this point, the final step is to change the policy with you guys in preparation for the start of the school year this fall. So I'd be happy to take any questions if you have them.
Are the teachers aware that this is coming?
Yes, ma'am, I believe they are.
So we're basically changing the vehicle that we use, but the process, there will still be observers from within our district. They'll just be using a different vehicle to.
Yes, ma'am. You know, to a teacher, you know, some of the language changes, some of the targets, it's actually a much more collaborative system. It involves goal setting with, you know, with an appraiser and a teacher, and reviewing those targets through the year. But, you know, to a teacher, there's still an administrator on your campus that is coming and observing you teaching and providing you feedback as a part of it. But, you know, so from that end, yes, ma'am, I think.
This is going to make it more apples and apples.
Yes, it will, and really the biggest thing is it sets our teachers up to be able to potentially, you know, earn a significant salary bump from state funds at some point through the teacher incentive allotment.
And I'm sure that this is a moot question, but you guys have already looked. We're not decreasing our standard in any way by judging according to this.
No, if anything, we're headed in the opposite direction, I believe. Like I said, this aligns more with some of our instructional goals. And our previous system, while a locally designed appraisal system, actually mirrored pretty closely the formerly adopted system around the state, the PDOS system, that had been phased out and I guess is a move to identify higher targets for better instruction for kids.
Perfect.
Do we know about how far out in the future our teachers could be eligible for increased state?
Well, Ms. Eagle, that is an outstanding question. And I don't think any of us have that crystal ball. You know, the teacher incentive allotment program was put into play in 2019 in the 86th legislature, but there were some districts, mainly Dallas ISD, it was built off of you know, some plans they had in place in order to reward teachers for excellent performance with increased pay. For other states to access the funds that the 86th legislature intended to go to this, you've got to first evaluate teachers, calibrate targets. It's a couple-year process to be able to begin to access the funds. And, you know, the biggest question is, will the funds be there? You know, because that'll be a future biennium that needs to actually allocate that money at some point. And, you know, so we want to be ready for that with our teachers. You know, I think there's a chance that the legislature could see significant deficits out here tonight. So those funds may be used elsewhere. But we want to be prepared for whatever's available for our teachers.
It's fair enough.
And our teachers have a tendency to wish to be looked at through the same lens as other educators. So this will give them some comfort that everybody thinks the right thing is the right thing. So
yes, ma'am.
I don't know what percent, 5 to 10% of the districts weren't using T-test. I mean, we were kind of in a small group that it still stayed in the locally approved. And so we're just joining the ranks of where everybody else is to get in line so I can take care of our teachers. So a lot of our teachers that are coming to us from other districts, they're already used to this. They've been on this system, so.
Even some of our administrators who've come in.
Yeah, administrators are
already
used to
spent,
it.
you know, time with the system as well.
And all of our administrators have already been trained in this currently, so we're aware of this system, so.
There's a comment in here, I noticed, it said the board shall approve a list of certified appraisers who can appraise a teacher in place of the teacher supervisor.
Yes.
What, can you elaborate on that
I can. As any teacher evaluation system, if a teacher takes issue with maybe an initial observation as part of that, they can request a second appraiser to come in and take a look at what they're doing in the classroom. separate from their appraiser, and we have to put together a list of people that have been through the proper training and our administrators that could come in and be that second appraiser. So that list will be coming to you guys in August before we start school. But it's comprised of administrators within the district. Sometimes we will send an assistant principal or principal from another campus to come in and lay fresh eyes on that teacher in their classroom. Sometimes it's maybe a curriculum director from the district level that comes and does that. But that list will be coming to you guys soon.
Because we've seen that before. We've
Yes,
seen
sir.
information
That's
like that
something we've
before.
done as part of our locally developed system as
Every
well.
year.
Right.
Every year. You
So
can
that's
see
why I
how
thought, it
this-
looks like a change, but it doesn't look foreign necessarily.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's the same, only different.
It's the same, but it's written down on here, though.
Okay. What other questions have we got? We good?
Help me out.
Okay, so we need a motion to approve the revision to the local policy DNA as Dr. Bullock presented. Motion by Christie, seconded by Chuck. All those in favor? That motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have we run out of agenda?
I think so. You have a few more items in
No,
mind?
I don't have any more rabbits to pull out of that hat for that, so. Appreciate y'all, I really do. And on behalf of the teachers for the bonus they're gonna see this year and the raise and the support we have from you for direction we're going in uncertain times. We appreciate the good, strong leadership we have from our board of trustees. So,
Or behind you all the way. We can't thank you enough for what you're going through and about to go through.
we know that, and we appreciate it. We're moving through this together, and our objective is to take care of our families and our kids through this time, and we're gonna do the best job of that. We know how. Got a lot of talented educators and teachers we're gonna put to work on it, and we'll make it work. We will.
And get back to normal as soon as possible.
As soon as possible, as soon as possible. And we will get back there at some point. We'll look back at this and we'll talk about how difficult it was. But we'll also remember, all the efforts that went into taking care of kids at home and the times we bring them back up to the building and stuff. And so I'm sad that we won't be seeing them at that time, but I'm excited to get out now and start working on some plans so we can bring groups of them up and if they don't feel comfortable coming up, they don't have to, but I sure look forward to maybe seeing some of our kindergarten and our pre-kindergarten kids come up to let them really get a chance to meet that teacher in that classroom, even if it's just for a few hours for a morning or something, to sort of set the stage for what's going to happen, in our online learning. So.
That's great to have the latitude to do that.
But we're so thankful that our county allowed us to have
Right.
that latitude to be able
Right.
to do that. As
Absolutely.
long as we can keep those groups sort of small and not together in a large amount of time and have the right protocols in place and sort of, ease into this as we go.
Melinda, make sure you tell Sydney that we appreciate her letter. Love to see kids stepping up and trying to advocate. It's great.
Well, I do hope school will start after Labor Day, because I'm afraid the TEA or whoever is going to push it back again. I promise you.
I have a senior football player who is preaching that steadily in my house as well, so.
Yeah. Well, okay, and so I didn't quite get the UIL. We don't know, like, for football games and so forth. We don't know yet about that, or?
No answers yet.
That's gonna, okay. Because we gotta have something for these kids. You have to have something.
Those of you who saw Dr. Stevens' video when he said he wants this year to look as normal as possible for as many kids as possible, he was speaking with one voice for everybody sitting up here. We all want these children to have a school experience. So they're working so hard. These administrators are working so hard. If you are of a praying type, please pray for them, because literally the field changes every day.
We'll take all the prayers we can get.
Absolutely. They're doing a great job. and trying to get the kids back in the building. So,
Yeah, because I forgot, you know, you got
So-
a senior too this year.
And I haven't
And I
seen
know,
it.
thank y'all all for coming out here today.
Well, we think we get guidance from UIL tomorrow, so we're all standing by to hear what that looks like. Yep.
Watching
But in the meantime, our kids doing their workout camps and other stuff will continue
the same.
as we have been,
Mhm.
until we hear any other guidance from UIL about it.
Good stuff.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. Okay. All right, at this point, the board's going to now recess and move into a closed executive session for the purposes permitted by pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.071 and 551.0821 and 551.129, consultation with school attorney concerning pending litigation of matters styled Student versus Magnolia ISD, docket number 105 SE 1219, before a special education hearing officer for the state of Texas. That's a mouthful. Pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.072, discussion of purchase, sale, exchange, or value of real property. And finally, pursuant to Texas Government Code 551.074, personnel discussion and recommendations. Thank you very much.
So let's move along to that way to.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing we need to do is wrap up the business about the student versus MISD. And so we need to have a motion on that. So I move to accept the recommendation of the superintendent of schools and the school district's attorney, and to direct the superintendent and the school district's attorney to proceed as discussed in closed session in the matter styled Student versus Magnolia ISD, docket number 105-SE-1219, before a special education hearing officer for the state of Texas. So we need a motion for that. Chuck motions, seconded by Kelly. All in favor? That motion passes. Okay, finally, we need a motion to adjourn this meeting. Motion by Sonia, seconded by Kelly. All those in favor? Meeting adjourned. Thank you.